Welcome back and thank you for tuning in. Today we're gonna paint the Haemotrope reactors. And of course these are a part of my project to fill up 2 Shadow War Armageddon tables for a small narrative campaign that I'm hosting with my wife for some friends. And next Monday on the Errand Update we're gonna talk a bit about how I can broadcast some stuff from this event without spending my entire birthday party filming and narrating. So yeah, anyway. I'm gonna start with the huge skulls. I generally prefer skull motifs to look like motifs rather than actual oversized skulls. There is a bit too much He-Man for my liking in the great skull thingy. But that said, I think that some bone or cream or eggshell or what you want to call it would go very well with the corroded metal, dark green, orange rust color scheme I've got going on. Very Dark Angel-y, and as a matter of fact, in their colors. And the box art shows them with an almost bluish white with tons of blue lights all the way around and very clean, and that wouldn't fit at all. So I got some sandry dust, some Ushapsi bone, some screaming skull, and some palette-rich flesh. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna base coat the parts of this giant insignia that I want to be whitish with sandry dust, and then I'm gonna use the airbrush to work it up to a whitish color. So starting with sandry dust. I'll be quite messy and then just clean up afterwards, because right now what matters is to get a solid, smooth coat. So before I start the highlighting, I'm gonna take some Agrax Earthshade and I'll just give all the bone an all over wash. As the first color, I've mixed about 50-50 Ushapsi bone and sandry dust with a healthy helping of flow improver and a little bit of water to make it go through the airbrush. So now it's almost entirely Ushapsi bone, just with a tint of the sandry dust still left in the mix. Then I add some screaming skull to the mix, making it approximately a 50-50 mix of Ushapsi bone and screaming skull. And then a dose of palette-rich flesh. About as much as they're in the cup already. So 1 part screaming skull, 1 part Ushapsi bone, to 2 parts palette-rich flesh. And now I'll clean the airbrush and then give them a final dash of palette-rich flesh with a little bit of white and flow improver. So now, with some regular pure black from Vallejo, and I'll be really careful when I get close to the white areas. Before we continue with the black and white, I decided I want to paint in the coils around here. So for that I decided to do a simple green transition, starting with Caliban green, then some Warpstone glow, and some mood green. And a good tip, I think, is this one will clearly get in the way now, so I'm glad I put it on with Poster Putty. And the reason I do this now is that I know I'm going to re-establish gunmetal all the way around, so I can be a bit messy with this as well, and then start to be neat once all these flashy details are done. And now I'll just take some Warpstone Glow on the same clumsy brush and basically paint a line down each of the coils. And finally, I'm gonna paint some mood green in just in the center of the line I just painted. Now I'm gonna re-establish the gunmetal using gunmetal from Game Color Vallejo. And for that I have two brushes ready. One quite big one and one medium sized, also rather big one. I'm gonna paint back in all the metallic around here and on the skull, the details here, stuff like this box here, and wherever the airbrush have ruined it elsewhere, and also a little bit on the exhaust pipes. And after that we're ready to get into a bit more detail. So now we'll take some brassy brass, and that'll be for all the rims of the instruments here, for some of the pipe work and stuff like that, just to give some variation. I've painted in all the parts I want to be bronze. You could obviously add a lot more, but I want them to fit with the rest of my table, and that doesn't have a lot of bronze on it. I also used the same colors as I did for these coils in the big lens in here, and attempt to create the illusion of promethium flowing down in the pipes. So next I'm gonna take some Kato red base and paint in some of all the cables and the big lenses, as well as the warning areas of all the little instruments scattered around. So now it's time to do some washing, and I'll go about this quite differently than I've done on the other terrain videos, because I don't want to have any wash falling into these, and also I want to keep this bone white. So I'll take some Nuln Oil, fasten it to the table with poster putty, and then I had Lame in medium to my palette, and I have some flow improver on hand. And what I'm gonna start with is all of this on the back side up to the rim here, and then everything down here, avoiding this one, and then the entire ring going around, again avoiding this one here, and then with a fine brush I'm gonna go in and add where needed on the areas in the detailed area. Wow, that was messy, and obviously a bit of the Nuln Oil got where we didn't want it. But before we can clean up, we need to get a bit more messy, starting with a dry brush of chainmail silver on all the larger washed areas. So, after the dry brush, we're ready to add some typhus corrosion to the pipe down here. And also on the main pipes going up here. And finally in the larger recess areas here. And as usual with the typhus corrosion, when we're using it as basically a layer paint, 2 layers is probably needed. And now I'll add a bit of Ryza Rust to the exhaust pipes. And now for a bit of cleanup. I'll grab some gunmetal for the silver areas, some black for the black areas, Kato red base for the red areas, and palette rich fresh for the white areas. And once the cleanup is done, we're ready to add some final details and some highlights, and then we'll be done. Right, so after a bit of cleanup, it's time to add a bit more shading, and I'll do that with a mix of 2 parts Lame medium to 1 part Severin Savior. And that'll be to just mark out the far edges and recesses of the white areas and in all the little instrument discs. So next I'm gonna highlight the sharp edges of the white area with some purity white. And the black parts I'm gonna highlight with Caliban green. And with those final highlights done, all that remained was to paint in the lamps in the same way as I did on the Prometheum relay pipes and give them a coat of satin varnish. So here they are. I'm really happy with them and look forward to get them on the table. And I think they fit really well with the stuff I've painted already. The one bad thing I have to say about the Games Workshop plastic scenery is also probably the best thing, and that is the high level of detail. It takes me way longer to paint one of these kits than it does something I made myself or some of the laser cut kits out there. And that is not necessarily a good thing when I want to get a lot of terrain done quickly. But other than that, I'm pretty impressed with the designs, and I look forward to paint more of it. Though I think next week we're gonna do a kit from one of the other producers. I have some various sci-fi scenery from TT Combat, Prometheum Forge, Warsenal, Microarts, and some other stuff too. So hopefully you enjoyed this, and tune in next week for more. And yeah, that was all from here, so take care and bye bye.